During the gloomy years of the Great Depression, Napoleon Hill provided a much-needed voice of optimism. However, that voice used to be muffled. Outwitting the Devil was really written in 1938, but it wasn't released until 2011 due to Hill's controversial views on churches and schools, which he believed inhibited originality and held people in a suffocating web of fear. Now that it has been 70 years, Hill's book is finally being published. Welcome to the video book summary of the book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Principle 1. One of the main reasons for failure is that we follow our fear instead of our trust. Do you have a dream that you've been holding onto but have been too terrified to pursue? Since 98% of us, according to the author, allow fear to govern our thoughts, there most likely is. As a result, we frequently go through life not stopping to consider or act on our own desires. Early on, the fear that makes us float is ingrained. Churches are a good place to start since they warn kids about the sneaky devil. Then there are the schools that do very little to prepare kids to be people in the real world and instead place a heavy emphasis on memorization of voluminous facts and data. While pursuing his life's work, establishing the first school of thought on individual achievement, the author, Napoleon Hill, encountered this overwhelming dread and lack of individuality firsthand. He had been interviewing people for years to learn about their achievements and mistakes, but his notes were beginning to lose their focus and didn't necessarily add up to a clear worldview. His mind was clouded with anxiety and indecision, and he was stuck. Later, he experienced a revelation. While enjoying some much-needed fresh air while strolling, he was unexpectedly accosted by a voice that reminded him of his other self. Hill was informed by the authoritative voice that he could complete his manuscript on the philosophy of individual success if he would just quit giving in to his doubts and fears. Hill eventually came to the conclusion that this voice represented a quality we all share. He refers to it as infinite intelligence, a reservoir of faith and goodwill that is always available to us as long as we keep doubt, fear, and worry out of our thoughts. This voice helped Hill overcome his trepidation, put in the necessary effort, and finish his book. As a result, Hill rose to prominence as the first influential author in the self-help field, and his books are still widely read today. Hill thus evolved into a non-drifter, a person who is aware that mastering one's own thoughts is essential to success. Principle 2. Positive thinking and having a clear purpose are necessary to achieve your goals in life. Hill's breakthrough resulted in part from his having a very specific life objective. You must have a personal life objective if you want to improve your chances of success. Determining your objective is crucial, since knowing what you want can make or break a person's success. Now, nobody else can do this work for you. Neither the church nor your school can choose your future. You are fortunate to have this priceless privilege, so we all make our own decisions. Even in the most dire circumstances, we have a choice. We may allow our minds to drift toward positive or negative ideas. For instance, despite the Great Depression's widespread hardships, some people managed to maintain their optimism and achieve greatness. Consider Henry Ford. He could have let the prevalent negative views to cloud his head, like so many other individuals of his period did. Ford, though, resisted fear and didn't allow doubt stand in the way of creating one of the biggest automakers in the country. In the end, it was his perseverance and positive outlook that enabled him to establish assembly line production and achieve his goal of building an affordable car that every middle-class American could purchase. So keep in mind that your decision to think negatively or positively will have the biggest impact on your level of achievement. And you'll be well on your way to avoiding the fate of becoming a wanderer when you pair optimistic thinking with a clear life objective. Theodore Roosevelt is another excellent example. When he was elected President of the United States, he had a very specific goal in mind: to banish the anxiety that had persisted since the beginning of the Great Depression, and to turn the country's attention from depression to recovery. Roosevelt responded, "It is not a question of majors and minors. We have only one problem, and that is to cease fear and replace it with trust." When asked what the biggest issue the U.S. was currently experiencing, this was a concrete strategy that succeeded in enabling Roosevelt to seize authority and set the country on the path to recovery right away. The adage "you receive what you sow" applies here. In other words, your efforts will be reflected in your outcomes. And as soon as you begin to think positively and work toward your objectives, you'll realize just how powerful having a purpose can be. Please feel free to buy this book or get a free trial of Audible. Both links are provided below in the description. This will help us to grow our channel. Thanks. Principle 3. Success depends on creating good habits and surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. People are great at making excuses for undesirable and unproductive conduct, whether the ostensible cause is poor eating habits or an inconsistent sleeping routine. However, the true risk arises when those routines start to become a way of life. You may be falling prey to what the author refers to as the law of hypnotic rhythm, which is a fixed engagement in habitual behaviors, when drinking stops being a monthly activity and begins to become a daily one. Both bad habits and positive habits are covered under this law. Negative habits, on the other hand, are to be avoided at all costs, because they can quickly ruin your life. For instance, overeating or consuming the improper foodstuffs is a major contributor to the majority of headaches and other ailments. Additionally, when people form terrible eating habits, their ability to function can suffer and their goals may be abandoned. Similar things can occur with other behaviors, like sex, which can become such a powerful focus of desire that all other objectives fade away. Successful people typically hang out with people who have positive habits in order to prevent developing such bad habits. After all, it's a well-known fact that you pick up on the habits of others around you. This might seem like a straightforward approach, yet the majority of people live their lives accepting their circumstances rather than actively seeking out better ones. The author's mentor, Andrew Carnegie, is a good example of a person who refused to accept his situation. The philanthropist and commercial mogul surrounded himself with successful individuals, much like many other great leaders before him. Therefore, it could be time to discover peers with better attitudes if you see that the poor attitudes of your friends or coworkers are having a negative impact on you. Principle 4. Successful people recognize the value of failing and learning from it. If you've ever worked on a project and it ultimately failed, you could have decided to give up. However, successful people are aware that setbacks are merely a bump in the road toward achieving their objectives. Consider Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, the phonograph, and a host of other groundbreaking technologies. Before realizing any of his visions, he had to endure dozens of failures. More intelligent than Edison are undoubtedly thousands of other people. His tenacity in the face of numerous losses is what truly set him apart and cemented him in history. Think and Grow Rich, which the author released in 1937, helped people see past the hardships and disappointments of that decade. The advice given in that book is still valid today. Regardless of how hopeless the situation may be, we must always find a way to set goals. The author's 1937 book is still ranked among the top 10 self-help books ever written. Recognizing that any given failure may be the seed of success is another trait shared by many successful people. There is no reason to consider failure to be anything other than a transient state of mind because every issue you face will have a solution. For instance, Julie Crone frequently heard that no horse owners wanted a female jockey, thus she couldn't be a professional jockey. However, Crone had a saying, "Keep turning up." And indeed, she persuaded those horse owners to let her ride when she had worn them down. A champion jockey, Julie Crone, she was rated by USA Today as one of the hardest athletes in history several years later. Don't let someone else's pessimistic viewpoint convince you that your dream is impossible. In a nutshell, this book's main idea is that we all have both positive and negative thoughts. That inner voice instructs us to persevere at times while also telling us to quit. Fortunately, we have the option to choose to hear the voice of positivity and follow it, disregarding the voice of negativity, and putting aside the fear that prevents so many people from realizing their ambitions. We can all overcome failure and fulfill our innermost desires by acknowledging our anxieties, using the power of positive thinking, and adhering to a clear strategy. Please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more such video book summaries.